Hello, I'm Lonnie.
I'm Amberlicious.
We're Untitled Network. We are continuing. This is like an addition to our all October Halloween horror movie review series. Like the main ones were the Conjuring series, and now, God, we recorded those earlier in the summer, and now we're almost to October already, and we decided to do some extras, and this I think is the first one besides.
Yeah, I think we just did this Conjuring series. I don't think we recorded any.
Yeah, I don't think we did either. But yeah, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the 1978 version, which to most people is the best one. The first one I ever watched was the 94 version, and I've never seen the end of it, which is pretty.
Weird.
Yeah, because it came on like HBO one night, and like the only reason I watched this because it was like this one. It had a couple of nude scenes, like full frontals, and I had an eye for that whenever I would scrounge through the HBO listings.
Hold
And
on a second. You have an eye for that now.
well, true, but yeah, this was like. It was probably maybe a year or two old. It was like 96, I was a teenager. And I watched that movie, and it was amazing. I loved it. It scared the hell out of me. But
Really good.
about 20 minutes from the end of the movie, I fell asleep. And that was before TiVo. I didn't never think to record it or anything.
Yeah.
And since then, I've not seen it. Now, my cousin told me how it ended because he stayed up and watched the end of it. But I did.
I've literally only seen the original. I've never seen the newer ones.
Now, I think the original from the 50s was on here, has been on here for a while. And so I watched the one from the 90s, and then I watched this one, and then I watched the one from the 50s. And I've only seen the one from the 50s as of maybe about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It's very recent. And it was a good movie. I could see where it would scare the hell out of somebody in the 50s. Hell, I see where this one could scare the hell out of somebody in the 70s. It scares me now. I mean, so like the basic premise is you follow a handful of people who I guess are survivors, and they start noticing things are off. They're the people they know are acting different, and then they quickly discern that the people, like, there's a lot of people who aren't themselves, and then they figure out, hey, this actually isn't them. These are alien clones or whatever happens. And then, but by the time everybody comes to peace with that, it's too late.
Yeah,
because
they recognize it. Because, like, to say it out loud, it does sound crazy. It does.
There are a lot of parallels between this and what's going on right now in the real
It
life.
sounds crazy. They're like, they're not acting themselves. And,
Yeah.
I mean, and in this version, they have Leonard Nimoy as a psychiatrist being like,
Which he did pretty good in that role.
Yeah, he did.
I enjoyed that. He made it, you believed it.
Yeah. He was just like, no,
Well, he was one of those like pop psychiatrists.
he
The
was
ones
at
with the
time.
book and
Yeah.
the parties and all that.
70s Bob.
Yes,
So
that
the
God,
70s Bob.
that is a Leonard Nimoy role.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
If that's how he was going to be in real life, there would be,
I feel like they could have done this movie just fine without that character, but they just threw him in there because, oh my God, we got Leonard Nimoy.
And it gave it a little flavor, it changed it up. That's the whole thing, because it really was, the same plot, even though it did end a little differently, but it was like, even used the same names.
Yeah,
as the original movie.
It was fresh. It was just a good,
know.
fresh movie. The movie feels fresh now.
But we got to give it, that 1978 flavor with the hip psychiatrist, and we got a young Jeff Goldblum in it.
Yes, Jeff Goldblum was in this movie. Like, seriously, if you, like, as a nerd, if you're a nerd that likes horror films, there is really no reason not to watch this movie.
Agreed.
Because it does. It has a 20-something Jeff Goldblum. It's got Leonard Nimoy arguably in his prime.
And of course they were like, we gotta show tits in this movie because it's 1978.
There's a little bit of nudity.
Yeah.
Yep. And I was like, holy crap. Like, I'm going to go, like, look up stills from this movie later. Scary stills, not nude stills.
Both?
Yeah,
Both.
Scary nude stills.
Both are good.
Hey, I like scary nudes.
Scary nudes are the best nudes.
It just depends on what kind of...
Spooky nudes are the best nudes.
Yeah. So just put a pumpkin on a woman's head and, hey, we're in business.
Right.
But no, this I mean, it does. The movie builds and builds, and it's funny because people are walking around just acting normal, but you see like random people in the background like staring.
You can tell.
Yes, you know.
They're just like not quite right. They're just kind of blank faced.
They put you in the movie, and it's a eerie feeling. It really is.
And even that lady, one of the, I don't remember her name. I don't remember the character's name offhand, but that one.
His love interest or Jeff Goldblum's girlfriend?
His girlfriend.
Okay.
The one that owned the mud bath.
Yes. She's
like, you can fool them, you just can't show emotion.
Yeah.
It was that simple.
And spoilers. I'm very surprised you did not know the ending to this movie.
Well, no, I've never watched it.
Yeah, but my God, that ending, what ends up happening? Matthew is the main character. He's the only one I remember, and that's just because they said his name so many times. But you kind of get the idea that he's going to be the only survivor, and then at the very end, Jeff Goldblum, his character, his girlfriend, runs out there. And I guess assumes because they show you they don't really
show him leaving town and making it to the Capitol.
Yeah.
And you think, he made it to the Capitol, but you could look at the Capitol until it was empty.
Yeah.
That was eerie. The trees were all dead.
Yeah.
And it was really, and then she's like, and she made it to the Capitol.
And she found him, and she runs up to him, and he points at her and does the...
He tattles on her. That's what they were doing, tattling on each other. It's like, that one's not one of us.
But I'm just like...
But yeah. Well, in the original, Matthew was the survivor. But they didn't take over the whole thing like they did in this movie.
Yeah.
In the original, they were like, oh shit, and blocked off the next town.
Yeah, they figured it out.
Yeah.
This one, nope.
Right.
The world is doomed. Which kind of makes me wonder.
Yeah, the world literally, because, they were putting them on ships. Navy ships.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy crap.
So, do you think... This is just kind of a philosophical guesswork question. Do you think the person dies... Or do you think they're reborn into an alien body?
They claimed they were reborn and that your memories were just compacted.
You know what?
Is what they said in the movie.
I would almost believe that because by that point, they already had so much power that they didn't have to lie.
Yeah.
They could have just drugged the people, held them down, and forced it.
You could, even before they had all that power, you could tell, like, her significant other, whatever her name was, God, the one that was always hanging out with Matthew.
Yeah.
He never left once they took his body over. He stayed there and lived his life, so to speak, I mean, he was helping spread it around, but, like, he just was a little off. And so, they were just going about... But they took away all the emotions. It's like you're not boggled down by emotion anymore. No hate, no sad, but also no happy and love either.
True, but if you look at it in a logical sense, that's almost an improvement.
Nah.
In a logical, on paper,
it's not an
in human sense, it's,
Okay, Wani.
Okay.
It's not practical.
Okay. Well, it was kind of like in Marvel Zombies when Reed Richards infected the entire Fantastic Four with the zombie virus because, as a baseline scientist, not looking at it from an emotional standpoint or anything else, as a scientist, becoming zombies is a vast improvement because you technically don't need food to live. Your consciousness can survive without a body if it's just a head. And he was like, you know what? This is an improvement biologically. And so, realistically, I mean, I don't know. You can tell, like, they don't care about beautification or anything like that because, like you said, all the trees were dead. Or maybe that was just a little while later. It was like maybe in the winter. Well,
that's true. It could have been in the winter. You're right. It still gave it an eerie fucking feeling.
It was on purpose, so whatever the reason.
Yeah, because it was empty and...
It was just desolate.
Yeah.
Like, the last 2 minutes of this movie was desolate. That was there was just... They really do a good job of putting you into that atmosphere. Like, you feel nothing while you're watching it. Mm-hmm. You feel nothing and you feel everything at the same time. Because the whole time I'm thinking...
That was a really good twist.
Like what's going on here? Because you already kind of... maybe suspect that he's been, but it still hits like a freaking punch to the gut when they do the big reveal at the end, and then that's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
She was probably the last one.
Or one of the last. She was probably the last one in town, at least. Yeah. You probably wouldn't be able to survive more than a couple of days in that situation.
Oh, no.
Like, you're going to become an alien.
Right.
Because it'll get to the point where eventually, no matter where they fall asleep, there's going to be a pod nearby. Because they're freaking everywhere. They were already spread out just randomly in the grass outside of the factory,
Oh, my God. Yeah.
So it's like, it kind of gives you that dread of going to sleep, kind of like Nightmare on Elm Street does,
Yeah.
So it's like, oh.
Pods were like kudzu. They're everywhere.
Yes!
It's that invasive, too, invasion. It was really an invasive plant. Just kind of took over and
maybe we could...
everywhere.
I could write a movie, call it Invasion of the Killer Kudzu.
That would be amazing. I'd watch that shit.
I would, too. It's like the newest thing that gets picked up by sci-fi, like Sharknado. Invasion of the Killer Kudzu. It's like Alien Kudzu. Okay, well, anyway.
Well, let's
I swear to God, if anybody steals my idea, I'm going to be pissed.
What do you rate this movie?
9.5.
Okay.
It's just short of perfection. The only reason I have any complaints is because there was a little spot, in my opinion, from about the time you learned that the doctor has changed to about the time he destroys the factory. That segment, I feel like, could have just about been cut out of the film. I feel like they dragged... You could have cut 15 minutes out of this movie and it would have been fine.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. I think it's a little bit too long. How long is it? It's 4 minutes shy of 2 hours.
Yeah, it's a really long movie.
I feel like this could have been a 90-minute movie and it would have been paced perfect. Just little pacing issues. That's the only problem I have. Otherwise, it's an all-time classic horror movie that... horror films, to me, there are like maybe 10 cream of the crop amazing horror films. There's about 200 good horror films, and then everything else is garbage. That's how I look at the horror genre.
That's fair.
Like comedies, God, I've got 50 comedies. Sci-fi movies, 100 of them that are beautiful. But yeah, horror movies
more catered to your taste.
Well, yeah, but also I think horror movies, they rarely get the budget and the attention that they deserve. I feel like, with very few exceptions, horror movies are kind of phoned in, and they rehash tired ideas. Whereas this movie was just a remake of something 20 years earlier, and needed a remake, just like the 90s version was really good. Like I could do with one of these every 20 years just to make it current,
Kind of
you know?
fresh, yeah.
Yeah, it's like how they sometimes, like they did with the Ultimate series, it was like Tony Stark and Iron Man got injured originally in Vietnam, and then they updated it after so many years to where, oh, now it's Afghanistan, that kind
Yeah.
of thing. So, what do you give it?
I'm gonna give it a 9. I'm gonna give it a 9. It was good. It was a nice remake. And even though it didn't end like the original, it was still a good ending. But it just wasn't.
Which ending do you prefer?
Mm, they're both so different.
Okay.
It's really hard to pick
Apples
a
and
favorite.
oranges,
Yeah.
basically.
Because that was a great ending, but them believing him at the hospital was great too. So.
If
I do think that in my opinion, the original is just a tad more creepier. But it's like I told you earlier. I feel like black and white movies just add a certain tone to something.
Yeah, it's like I've
Yeah.
seen the color version of Night of the Living Dead, and I
Mm-hmm.
prefer the black and white.
It's just I don't know. It's a different vibe.
Well, it was shot for black and white.
That's fair.
They knew that it was going to be in black and white when it released. I'm sure color never occurred to them,
Mm-hmm.
and it was shot with that in mind, and it made use of a lot of good techniques and stuff, knowing that the movie was not going to be in color.
Mm-hmm.
I would like it, and if I mean, we've still got some time,
Mm-hmm.
but if not this year, next year at least, I want to also review the newest Body Snatchers from the '90s, because that movie was my introduction to the franchise,
Yeah.
and it scared the hell out of me as like a 12-year-old, 13-year-old. But anyway, all right, yeah, awesome movie, and that's another one in the books. We're gonna try to get a couple more good scary movies done for this. I don't want it to be just The Conjuring. We need a couple more. So anyway, I'm Lonnie,
I mean, Relicious.
and we are Untitled Nerd Network. This has been our 2021 Halloween month horror movie reviews. Invasion of the Body Snatchers.